That is clarified.
Before we move away from that, so you're saying that it's just a circular appended, a gazette notice appended to the document. In the annexures, do you have the gazette notice communicating 22,240?
You know, what I said is that we attached a historical document to the guideline. And the intention of the ministry attaching that document of 2015 was to communicate that the fees for boarding has not changed. It is 53,000, you know, the way we capped it. But for capitation, it has not reduced. The capitation, 12,870 that we are talking about, is the capitation of 2015. But the capitation currently is 22,244.
That's what I'm asking. Is that information available in the document?
Well, that information is not available in the document, but thereafter when issues came up, the minister released a circular clarifying that. Yeah, that has been clarified.
Okay. Well, you handed him the mic.
Thank you, Sam. I mean, I would rather not speak about anything else other than this, because it's very personal to me. Now, Bonabdi, thank you very much. You are a good officer of government. So I'm not addressing you by the issue. So I'll try to be very respectful to you. The people in this hall, courtesy of education, are learned. So they can reason with you step by step. So you said a 90-page document to our principals. Then in the annexures, you put a gazette notice of 2015. My question is, one, what is that gazette notice supposed to serve? That's one. Secondly, can you show us the circular issued by the Minister of Education preceding that? And can you also communicate to our principals that the capitation is 22,000? Just an email. The same way you sent a circular, said one, confirming that the capitation is 22,000 shillings. And lastly, it is important for you also to address through this gathering that this calendar year that is ending, this education year, academic year, out of the 22,000, our schools have only received 14,000. If you minus the one for infrastructure, it is coming to 11,000 shillings. Are you going to pay this debt to our schools? Because if you don't pay, and you tell them, like they were told last year, the way they survived in that year, they also know how to survive. How do they survive when they are suppliers waiting to be paid?
Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa, and thank you for your passion in education. You know, for you've really done well in that area. But all I just want to assure the communities outside there, the poor households, that I'm able to share with you the circular done by the CS right away. He did a press release, and therefore the capitation still stands at 22,244 for our senior schools next year. That is very clear. For the junior schools, it is 15,043. And there's already official communication. There's the capitation for primary is set to grow. And I think pronouncements have already been made from 1,420 to 2,238. And then on the other side, government has also been supporting in terms of examinations and all that. So I think the document we annexed there, the guideline, by the way, is complete. People just focused on one thing. I don't know why. Because we were guiding the schools, being a new system, we wanted them to see how they can do their timetable and organization of the curriculum, that English has 5 lessons, mathematics 5, every other, so they're able to timetable in terms of non-teaching staff. If it's a single stream school, how many workers do they need? Or if it's a 3-stream school. So it's a very comprehensive circular. But as for the exact amount that went to the schools, I think, Mheshimiwa, it is something that we need to discuss, because in the Ministry of Education, we only release what is released to us from the National Treasury. And I think everybody here knows that. Our source of funding is from the National Treasury. Okay. And we have been duly doing that, releasing the funds that the National Treasury gives us. And I think there was something in the debate sometimes back. That also is something that we are all aware and conscious about. Thank you.
All right, please pass the mic to Ahmed, because there's an important issue you've raised, that the cost of education, the unit cost is in regards to the teaching and learning, nothing to do with food. But now the report by Oxfam is showing us that the number of Kenyans facing severe and moderate food insecurity rose by 17 million. These are Kenyans, an increase of 71%. And of course, talking about the cost of food is 50% higher. I'm just wondering if that is the reality, if we do not plan to feed Kenyans in school and to setting ourselves for failure. Ahmed, help us understand what we've been able to witness, especially in the arid and semi-arid areas, in access to education and the inequality that comes with the cost itself, but also food or no food.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, the numbers of people who are out of school is astonishing in that region. And that is numbers of children who should be at school age going. They do not really, are not already in school. If you go to a school, I'm just going to give an example. First, let's start with the education from a perspective of the quality of education. If you look at Tana River and Garissa, the river just passes, and as it meanders, part of the other side of the school might be in Tana River. The next town is just 4 kilometers. The next town in Garissa with a school has only one a TSC teacher and one school, the community are the ones who are paying. In the next school where Tana River is, you'll find 7 schools in the same environment. And largely, that is the level of inequality. Secondly, because of so many other underlying aspects that are happening in the ASALs, especially you talked about poverty, for example. The poverty levels in some counties are up to 80%. The lowest in any of those arid counties is 62%. Technically, it means the capacity of parents to be able to take even their children to these specific places is not easy. If you look at, for them to be able to really stay and be able to get that kind of perspective of schools, after a family has gone through a 5-cycle drought and they have lost 2.5 million livestock, that being the backbone, that already says that household's capacity to take a child to school is already eroded. And from that kind of a perspective of lack of school fees, the lack of teachers, the lack of the ability to provide school feeding, which now the county governments or WFP or others who have been part of the processes have been able to provide through maybe external aid, because the percentages of the what you call education in emergency contribution to the processes is so high that if that cuts out, then it means school feeding will not be available in most of those ASAL counties. So the situation in the ASALs of inequality in education, I'll just call the ASALs to be the epicenter of inequality, not just only in education, but across a number of public service and public service gaps are just too huge. Thank you.
Ahmed, those realities you're describing, they are based on, when was this? That a school has only one TSC teacher?
Just recently. I went for a field visit to Mansabubu, and a school 4 kilometers away had all those number of teachers. The one in that place had only 2.
And how many learners?
The learners, almost the same. The children numbers are high. Yeah, so that is the situation. And in some of the locations that you'll find in the ASAL counties, they're still under trees. So the infrastructure systems in some of these schools has not really changed even with CBC being introduced.
But Ahmed, haven't you employed 76,000 teachers?
I'll just take you back 10 years ago. During the Garissa attack, we lost quite a number of teachers from the rest of Kenya. So what has been happening in the region is a situation where somebody will be able to get into the system just to be able to get employed, but look for the only opportunity to be able to step out. However, during that process, we had done a process together with the civil society to end the education crisis in northeastern Kenya, and we employed an 8-step approach to make it a national crisis. At that moment, we were allowed to, through an executive type of meeting that happened immediately when we were doing that demonstration of taking the child, an education casket to the provincial administration sites, offices. What happened was we were told, can you come up with 500 teachers from each of those regions for a period of 3 years to be able to fill the gap? Unfortunately, when we went to that space, the number of children who are ready, or who have finished school and who are ready to take up teaching, because that was the major key thing, was that if a child has, a student who has finished school has C+, they were going to entries. So with a C plane, when the processes of really equalizing education in Kenya, although we didn't want to take education to be something that will be zero, the country really needs to develop a mechanism of fast-tracking an education in emergency model to be able to help those counties to catch up with the inequalities in education itself. If we don't do it, and be able, there's one time the debate was about lowering the teachers' levels to be able to fast-track that kind of a process. That in itself was kicked out of the process in Parliament, and there will be real need for those kinds of answers to be given in this panel, so that then we see if the inequalities are just too high, what are the mechanisms in place to be able to address those kinds of problems?